Tag TV, and Tag Radio, rapidly becoming the leading technology new media in all of Georgia and the Southeast. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by Integrated Learning Services, integratedlearningservices.com. Wait, worry, or take control. At integratedlearningservices.com, increase sales, productivity, and client retention. Lower training costs. integratedlearningservices.com. The essential communication skills for entering into the complexity of today's business. Unafraid. Effective communication skills just for technology professionals. An innovative and effective way to improve leadership, supervisory, and coaching skills, increase teamwork and cooperation, and drive tangible business results. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, May 4th, 2010, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. When was the last time you saw measurable increases in people's sheer competence as a result of training, saw greater profit as a result of training? If you're a professional technology associate or an executive that either supports or is responsible for the delivery of a product or service buy-in or commitment internally or externally, the upcoming class of TAG's effective communication skills may just be the answer you've been looking for. On today's Tech Talk, we speak with the instructor, senior partner, author, and speaker at the world-renowned training and consulting company, the PAR Group, Pat Malone. With more than 35 years' experience, Pat has trained throughout the world for such organizations as the American Cancer Society, Banfield Pet Hospital, Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, DuPont, Hewlett-Packard, International Securities Exchange, Novell, Siemens, the United Way, Verizon, and many, many others. A featured speaker at industry and management conferences, Pat is a member of the CEO Action Group of the Metro Atlanta Chamber, Legislative Subcommittee, Small Business Growth Council, and Professional Services Roundtable. Pat is also the co-author of the new business book, Cracking the Code to Leadership. Effective communication skills for technology professionals. Looking to be more successful? TAG and Pat Malone has a program designed especially for you. Patrick, thank you for joining us today on Tech Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I know a lot of our listeners, a lot of our members are aware of some of the things that you've been doing for many years with TAG and maybe some of your background. But just to be short, let's go over a little bit about, share a little of your background with our listeners today.
Sure. I'm a senior partner with the PAR Group, and we're an international consulting and training firm that's headquartered here in Atlanta, but we have clients all around the globe. We've actually, in our history, trained more than 500,000 men and women around the world in the execution skills that are necessary to implement their corporate strategies. And I personally have conducted training in, I guess it's 25 or 26 countries outside of the U.S., with companies involved in a wide variety of industries.
Training is kind of a ubiquitous term. Specifically, what kind of training, or do you just go the whole gambit, a whole spectrum of things?
We focus on influencing skills. So our applications would include things like leadership and teamwork, sales skills, customer service, communications, those kinds of the skills that people need to execute their strategies.
I'm a little off of, I'm fascinated by the subject because I've always thought one of the things just in the last few years, it's like having attention deficit and being able to actually be diagnosed with a problem and besides just being distracted all the time. Mm-hmm. And my point being is I always thought it was impossible to teach entrepreneurship. Can you teach things like leadership? I mean, is that actually something that can be conditioned and programmed and get a response back in the form of training?
Yeah, we believe you can. If you consider that leadership is that ability to gain willing followers for a given course of action, then it is actually a skill. Now, there is a whole discussion in the community whether leadership is an art or a skill. We believe that things are called art when you can't define them. But if you can define leadership as that skill, then you can teach it.
Now, one of the things, you're involved with TAG's professional development program, and in fact, you lead a program that's called Effective Communications for Technology Professionals, which is pretty obvious based on your background and company's experience. But and I, for one, have anyone who knows me knows I like to think conversationalist, but I think verbose or talker. But since we've been talking most of our adult lives, I'm wondering why we even need a communications program.
Yeah, it does seem kind of counterintuitive to teach adults how to communicate. But let me share a little bit about a research study I saw from a company called VitaSmarts. They're based out there in Utah, and they went to some major corporations and talked about their major corporate initiatives, not just technology initiatives, but initiatives across the company in all disciplines. The survey came back and it said like 82% of employees within companies with significant organization-wide initiatives believed those projects were going to fail. Almost three-quarters of the people on the project felt like they were working on a doom project, and almost 80% believed that what they were involved with was a slow-motion train wreck. So when you look at these statistics and then look behind them as to the causes, what you see is really a breakdown in effective communications. We talk at people. We don't talk very well with people. And that failure is kind of a two-way street. It's the project leader to the team members, but it's also the team members back to the project leader. So that's where we think we bring great value in helping, whether you're a project leader or a member of a team, helping you become better at communicating to reach that objective.
Now, I know one of the things we really want to emphasize to our members and listeners today is the actual professional program that's going to be coming up. But while we're on the subject, I'm just really curious. I would think that in today, one of the things, it just seems that so many people are being isolated by technology. And do we really still have that kind of physical contact, physical engagement that we used to have in terms of the quote-unquote the day, as they say now? How does technology impact the whole process? I would think that's got to be even a greater challenge if you've got to take those communication skills. And everybody, I think anyone who knows, whoever's read an email, do you really know the tone, style, and slant of those words? Can you misread it?
Well, technology it cuts both ways. It's both good and I don't know that technology in itself is bad. I think we use it badly sometimes. So if you think about how we communicate, if you take emails, for instance, emails are very effective at communicating information. They're probably the worst way to get a decision. Now, if we could talk on the phone, that would enhance the communication because you've got the voice piece. See, when we're face-to-face with another human being and we're attempting to communicate, almost 90% of our communication is outside of the words that we use. It's in our voice. I mean, think about it. When you were a little kid, you were outside playing, and your mom or your dad called your name, you knew right away whether or not, just by the way they said your name, if it was safe to go home.
Right.
Didn't you?
Oh, absolutely.
That tone, that mother's tone or that father's tone, is part of that whole communication. And then our physical presence is even a bigger part of that. So in order of importance, if what you're trying to get is really an important decision, it should be done face-to-face to the degree that's possible. Now, that may be with something like telepresence or video conferencing, but it still should have all the components of communication in it. Second best then is the telephone. The least best is email, although email used right can speed up the flow of information to get to that decision point.
Let's talk a little bit about the program. Any specifics in terms of timing? When is this going to start, and maybe the logistics of it all?
Okay, the next program, we had a program that was scheduled to start tomorrow, but that has been rescheduled. There were a number of conflicts with some of the people who had signed up with that. So the next program is actually, I believe, on June 8th. It's been rescheduled to that date. And then there is another effective communication program scheduled for early in November. We usually do them twice a year.
Go into a little bit about who's your target audience. Who are they designed for?
Well, anybody that works in the technology field, from just associates all the way up to executives, if they're involved with things where getting willing followers, getting buy-in to their projects are important, then this would be a great value to them.
And when you deliverables, as they say, when it gets down to the bottom line, what can I walk away from? Enhanced abilities that I can expect?
Yeah, the things that you should expect is you should expect to become a better listener. You should expect to listen to things that leaders listen to that other people don't. You should expect to be able to establish conversational rapport. You should expect to get the facts from other people's perspectives. And then once you have all that information, you should be able to position your ideas in a way that makes sense to other people and then get their buy-in. And if there's any resistance or reluctance, you should be able to manage that so that you end up with a commitment at closure, not just agreement. Agreements are sort of good intentions at this moment in time. Commitments are promises that I co-own this with you, and that's really the destination. That's what you want to have at the end, at buy-in.
Now, is there a difference between communication? I'm going to assume this, but the style that I would deal with a client versus dealing with an employee.
See, a lot of people think there is a difference there, but isn't your employee as much a customer as your client is?
The minute you started that, I thought it's exactly what you're going to say, and I agree with you, absolutely. I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but you're right on.
This program, Effective Communications for Technology Professionals, is based off of a PAR program called Everyone's a Customer. And think about it. I mean, you could use your power. If I was your manager, I could use that power of my position to make you do something. I could also use my economic power to give you a raise or withhold a raise and get you to do something. But you would do it because you were surrendering or complying. You wouldn't give me your best effort. If I can convince you to co-own it with me, then you'll give me your best effort. And it's worth the extra little bit of effort that it takes to get to that level of commitment rather than surrender, compliance, or even agreement.
Well, going back to the original research numbers you were quoting, I mean, it's pretty astounding when you think of that much negativity going into something based on communications. I mean, the outcome has got to be, I often say to my clients, anticipate the inevitable. If you're going to set up a scenario where you're not communicating effectively enough and so many people have doubt or trust, how can you expect them to be committed and motivated in a way that you're going to get the job done right, get it done fast, and get it done the way you want? We've talked about opportunities and benefits that come out of it. Cover a little bit about the downside of it. Is there challenges? What's the biggest challenge the participants encounter?
Well, there's actually two big challenges that go on here, and it's a function of training. It's a function of skill enhancement, really. The first one is this idea that if I understand something, I can do it. And to give you the best analogy I can come up with is I understand the physics involved when a golf club hits a golf ball. I can't do it very well because I don't practice enough. So the number one challenge is getting people to practice enough so that they become competent, become proficient, because most people will try it one time, oh, that feels okay, and then they're done. Well, that's what amateurs do. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. They don't practice until they get it right. They practice until they can't get it wrong.
Excellent.
So that's the first challenge. The other challenge is it's a little unusual. It's people think that they're, like you said before, I'm a fairly good communicator. People come into the class thinking, I know how to do this. I mean, I've been talking and explaining things to people for years. And when they see the information, it just reinforces that until they try to do it. I can tell you, respond with empathy, and you can respond and you think you're being empathetic, when in fact the receiver sees lip service. And until you hold up the mirror and say, this is what you look like, if I said to you, I don't like that idea, you might respond to me, I understand what you're saying, but, okay, now what you've said to me is, I heard what you said. God, is that stupid? Let me enlighten you, because what's coming after but is your point of view. And we do that all the time. We say, I appreciate that, but, so we're setting up this, yes, I heard you, gosh, you're wrong, let me enlighten you.
I don't know where I heard it, but just recently somebody said, don't use but, use however. But
however, it's just got 4 more letters than but does, right? I mean, it's the same thing.
No, I understand exactly.
You see, you just did it to me. There's a big difference. We teach people, we show people how to prove they understand, not say they understand.
I can't imagine how. I just have to guess how popular these things have got to be. I know it's a challenge in a lot of cases. I know a lot of technologists, programmers, CIOs are challenged by the dynamics. I mean, just being a CIO anymore, it's no longer just about technology or programming. It's about communication, marketing, even sales, and they've never had to really get involved in it before. And a lot of them are really challenged in order to know the best methods and to feel comfortable in a speaking situation.
That's the biggest breakdown for technology professionals, when they have to interface with people outside their discipline. That's when the communication breaks down. And with just a little better effort there, they make their jobs so much more easy for them. Plus, they enhance themselves in the eyes of these other disciplines outside of the IT.
Well, I mean, I think it's a matter of being competitive, and it's the reality of the world that we address now, and that is that you've got to be multitasking, and one of them is communication. We've been dealing with speaking with Patrick Malone. He's senior partner, author, and speaker at the PAR Group. Patrick, if I'm interested, and I am, how do I make contact in terms of getting involved in the next class or the next group?
Well, it's on the TAG website. There's a full description of the course and my background. All the details are there, and how you want to sign up. And if there's somebody out there who's interested in bringing it in-house into their company, contact Amanda Shook at TAG, and she can give you all of the information and how we go about doing that.
Absolutely fascinating, really, really interesting, and I can see the great value in doing it. Patrick, thank you very much for taking the moment to join us today on Tech Talk.
Thanks for your time.